Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful, swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Monday, March 1st, 2021. The kiddies from spring break are here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it's getting warm. I'm like, man, God, we need some more love that breeze. I enjoyed it. So, I've done it for almost 44 years. I can make that statement. And, it's just a few, interesting stuff that has occurred. And, had a discussion with some folks even on Facebook, which is good. Had good discussions and so forth on the symbolism at CPAC. Because I know, TZM, a few others, they see how the stage was set up and the lighting as well. And of course, some of the photos they had, a Nazi had the symbols on his collar, one on the left and one on the right. It was like, wow. So, of course, you got people wig out over it, and I'm not condemning them by any means, but we should all learn something what these symbols represent. And I do remember studying these things when I was a young man. And so had a little quick review here, and I went to this one website called The Meanings of the Runes, which is Norse-mythology.org. Norse Mythology for Smart People. That's an interesting site there, but they give you all these intros and so forth, and even on books. So I was like, I remember I seen this from the Nordic runes. I used to study symbols when I was a young man, and even a kid and a young man at the time, and I always let me just see what I could find. And we can start off here with the lighting, okay? And even the Nazi's collar on the right side of the photo. There's 3 diamonds on a vertical formation, and those 3 diamonds, or say the diamond itself, it represents Ingwa, which is Ingwaz, the god Ingwa. And the Fomoni to this is meaning fertilization, the beginning of something, the actualization of potential. Very symbolic, right, on the lighting format that happened at the CPAC conference in Orlando, Florida. And of course, the stage itself, looks like a fish almost, is Otholin, which is inheritance, and the Fomoni is long and or short, meaning inheritance, heritage, tradition, and nobility. And I'm glad when people see that, and I can share this with them, and they don't get bent out of shape, but they can't defend what they've done. Okay, even if they got that from the Nazis or not, it's just very interesting. And it was nice, and I shared that with them. They appreciate it. And that's what counts, because the whole thing is, my friends, you gotta learn these symbols and so forth, because they want us to be triggered, and even with the swastika, the oldest, the Nordics use it as represent the Mullendafi and the 45-degree angle, which represents merciless force, the god aspect. All right, and it goes actually went back to way 3,000 years ago to Egypt, ancient Egypt, and possibly Samaria. All right, and there's even some researchers I read said it originally came from the Freemasons, which they said the origin of Freemasons originated in Egypt, the underground of Egypt, with the Egyptians and the Israelites meeting. So, like I said, it's just observe responsibly, of course, but something always to get a good look at, because we got that information, folks. Let's take advantage of it. They're trying to. All these technocrats want to suppress us on this knowledge. So that's why I don't really get offended by certain things. But I do call it out when I see it. Don't get me wrong. When it comes to people try to symbolize it for dominance and control, and telling people how to live, I get them all equally. I don't give a damn who you are. Remember, when it comes to government, it means Latin, and Latin means control of the mind. And they are the most murderous institution in recorded history. Okay, so they were responsible for democide and genocide for millenniums. And we can go at least to the 20th century. They said like 100 and over almost 170 million people died from genocide, and 270 million were, or 272 million were from democide. Genocide is attack of a certain race or a particular group. Democide, wipe them all out. Who cares? Just paraphrasing. Good book to read is Death by Government by the late R.J. Rummel. And he had a lot of good knowledge and information on that. You can look it up online. There's a book. I think the book's like $30. Probably hit a used bookstore if you can. But it's worth having in your collection because we all gotta know all these things. And I know I'm like bouncing around a little bit. So, but it's like I said, it's good because another thing I add to my social media interactions is like if you see the two relics or amulets between the House Speaker's chair at the House of Chambers, the fasces, it represents dominance and control. And you can see that all over Washington, D.C., even with the sculptures and so forth, and where they plant like the art in the buildings. Even in, like I said, Washington, D.C. is a great place, great example. And even with the U.S. Senate, they have them crisscrossing the fasces, dominance and control, right below the emblem. So it's funny about that because there's even talking about even Benito Mussolini. When he started using corporate of fascism, he used the fasces on the nation's flag, and of course, it got outlawed after his death. They said never again. So a lot more than meets the eye, I would say. So, but but the people out there, hey, they listened. We had a good discussion. I thank them, and hopefully, folks can read my comments, and just do a little homework. And it's great. You don't have to agree, but the whole thing is, share the information with people. That's one thing about social media. I like utilizing it, and because a lot of folks, their big mistake is making it to a personal level, and that's a shame. I always like to share that message of love to folks and information because hey, we're never gonna stop learning. Okay, even a half a century old plus man myself can admit that. But I enjoy every minute of it too. So, but like I said, it's really cool to talk about these things because folks can really, understand and better themselves. We can't get triggered. The problem is people get triggered, get knee-jerk reaction, even with certain words. They've been doing that for a long time. That's why social engineering always works because everyone wakes up. Use a certain term. Bam! It doesn't matter. Antifa, bam! Nazis, bam! They all like, they all like freak out. Black Lives Matter, bam! So, but they love using buzzwords. Doesn't matter what side of the paradigm it's from. Alright, well, enough of my ranting on this, but it's pretty cool to share this with you folks because I will leave the sites too. I will leave the site on. I will leave that site on here too. The meaning of the runes. And if you got anything else that I should check out, share it with me. Don't be shy. Okay, don't be shy. And hey, if you want to donate too, before I start, you can hit me at PayPal.me or cash.app/LokiLuck3, or you can contact me at LokiLuck number 03 at protonmail.com. Usually I say this in the end, but I'm going to say it in the beginning now. So, why not? Because you never know. To see how all this works out. So I'm definitely going to leave this up here for you folks. The meaning of the runes. So you can check it out and, hey, make your own judgment. But this one actually caught my eye. And I can thank someone from the FloridaCarry.com, Florida Carry website, Facebook profile, Facebook page. And this is interesting here. This came from the Chicago Tribune. They call it breaking news. And it says here, facing with rising crime and social upheaval, more black Chicagoans are seeking out firearms for their own protection. And this is by John Kilman. It came out 5 o'clock this morning, today. So I want to check what it has to say. I haven't really read it. I just skimmed through it. So I'm going to read this for you. So this is what it has to say here. Moments after firing a gun for the first time, Alicia Burton proudly displayed the result of her marksmanship. A human silhouette target perforated with more than 24 9mm holes. It was easier than I thought, the 30-year-old from Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood said after emerging from an Oak Forest gun range. The sound of bullets did throw me off, but after a while, it became normal, so it didn't scare me. Burton, who was pursuing a concealed carry license, is among a surge of African Americans who are taking a new interest in firearms. A gun industry survey taken in 2020, a record year for sales, noted that black customers accounted for the largest increase of any racial group. A Northwestern University study found that while white people bought more firearms overall last year, African Americans made up a disproportionate number of first-time gun buyers. And that's pretty damn cool, okay? I'm loving it already, all right? Because I'm gonna keep on reading here before I start ranting. The Tribune sought demographic information on firearm ownership, identification card, and concealed carry license holders from the Illinois State Police in January, but the agency said it could not provide the information by press time. In 2017, the Pew Research released a study that captured some of the complexity of gun ownership. Only 1 in 4 black people reported having a gun compared to 1 in 3 white people. And they were far more likely to believe that more guns mean more crime. Audrey Phillips, head of violence prevention group Target Area Development Corporation, said African Americans are already disproportionately affected by gun violence. Putting more firearms, even legal ones, into black communities could result in gun theft, accidental shootings, and tragedy, he said. We're dealing with enough deaths in our community, he said. Why do we keep adding guns? I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to keep on going here. New organizations dedicated to black gun ownership and nonetheless emerging, aiming to provide a welcoming welcoming environment to newcomers and counter long-standing negative images of black people with firearms. It is accepted that a white man in America with a gun is seen as a patriot, while a black man with a gun is seen as a criminal, said David Hayes of the 761st Gun Club of Illinois Firearms Education Group in the South Suburbs. It doesn't make Americans want to get behind that. And that's true. Remember, propaganda. They'll get, this group of criminals because they want to use, especially mainstream media, they want to use black people, especially black people, all criminals, everyone get arrested are black. And they do the same thing with the white folks now, with the whole white supremacy. Don't you get it? It's like, so I understand what he's saying. And I'm going to proceed. Some black Chicagoans told the Tribune that rising crime and social upheaval drove them to seek out firearms for their own protection. The biggest spike in gun buying last year in March during early days of the pandemic and in June when protests over the police killing of George Floyd boiled into violence. Though most gun owners were bought by people who already had at least one, about a quarter of were bought by first-timers according to the Northwestern study. Those new owners were more likely to be black. Given the timing of the second surge, James Druckman, a Northwestern political science professor who worked on the study, said many purchasers were likely driven by concern over police violence. But Mark Oliva, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, a trade group whose own survey found that an increasing in black gun buying, said he believed the increase was motivated by more people worrying about personal safety after riots and increased crime. It became very apparent to people that you have to be on your own first responder, he said. Yvette Farmer, 58, who lives in the south side of Chicago, said she bought a 9mm pistol last year because of the craziness happening in the city. Bullets don't have names, she said, at a concealed carry class in the Cantham neighborhood. They can't go anywhere. If you learn how to use something, you're better prepared. 24 students in the class handled replica pistols and practiced their grips, shooting stances, and the 5 points of armed confrontation. Look through that gun. Look through it. Instructor Mike Brown, a former police officer, commanded as the students extended their Falx pistols toward pretended attackers. Imagine that deadly threat is in front of you and you are trying to stop that threat. Don't look at the gun. Look through the gun at the threat. That's good. That's good. That's right there. That's a good instructor. And I praise him for that. Brown said students come to him because of fear of crime, especially carjackings, as well as concerns over racist violence and unrest. But he added that Chicagoans who arm themselves should wary of a city government that is aggressive about seizing guns. For example, he said, people with firearms owner identification card are frequently arrested for failing to also have a concealed carry license. Both are required to carry a gun. He chalked up the omission to a lack of education, but the consequences seem to land most heavily on black people. When there is a political-driven effort to eliminate guns, you're going to see overreaches in how the police tend to treat a certain class of citizens, he said. And that's definitely what I'm seeing here. Philip Smith, founder and president of the National African American Gun Association, said black gun owners face a double standard in their dealings with authorities. He said that their concealed carry license applications can be turned down for no good reason, an allegation that was the subject of a 2014 lawsuit in Illinois that police often treat them with undue suspicion. We have to prove our worthiness at all times, he said. You get a double check on everything to make sure you're a good guy. You're not treated as equal. Courtney Redmond, president of the 761st Gun Club, named after the distinguished World War II tank battalion comprised of black soldiers, said the disparities extend all the way to finding a place to practice marksmanship. Chicago banned gun ranges until a lawsuit filed by a black plaintiff forced it to back down. But since that federal appellate court decision in 2017, the city is still without a range. Redmond said his group is looking for property on the south or west side that might make a suitable location. How are people supposed to get education on firearms if they can't go to the gun range in their own city? He said they have to go to the suburbs. A lot of times black people don't always feel welcome there. On the top institutional unfairness, black gun ownership has also been inhibited by painful personal experience. The Pew survey found that black people are far more likely than people of other races to have been threatened by someone with a firearm or to know someone who had been shot. Hayes, Redmond's fellow gun club member, said his wife's brother was slain by a police officer and other relatives had also been killed with firearms. She didn't like the idea of him getting the gun, but with compassion, patience, and understanding, he said he eventually changed her mind. That's good. He said a similar approach could work with people who have had traumatic experience with guns, as could a message that carrying a firearm might prevent future bloodshed. Typically, bad guys don't look for fights, he said. They look for victims. And if a bad guy understands that his potential victim is armed as well as or better than him, typically he will rule that individual out as his target. It's very interesting because there's been a history with this particular group that been deprived of firearms rights. Not just in the southern states, but the northern ones as well. So gun control was considered racist. And what was going on in Chicago, many of them were conditioned, just an example, to accept that. And don't get me wrong, folks, we've all been manipulated and conned or swindled one way or the other, including yours truly. And it is a real shame because we all have natural rights to defend ourselves, family, and property, regardless what we look like or who we are. What I'm going to do, too, I'm going to add a video called No Guns for Negroes, which I posted, I mainly post it every year in February, the month of February. I post it on Facebook and Twitter and other social media sites as well. I'm going to add this to the memo to make sure people can look at that video themselves and they can understand where I'm coming from. And 20 minutes long, and it's worth it, folks. And the late great Aaron Zellman wants you to download it and spread this like fire. We got the technology. Let's use it. And now with the whole gun control scheme they try to do in Washington, D.C., yeah, it's a good time to educate ourselves and spread the truth of love, right? What is interesting about this, too, because, like in Chicago, they say many years ago, guns were considered illegal, which is invalid. But here's the thing, in Illinois, if people got to realize, you got to always talk about the Second Amendment. Don't forget you got the Illinois Constitution, the Bill of Rights as well. And it says here, Article 1, inherent and inalienable rights. All men are by nature free and independent and have certain inherent and inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights and the protection of property, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, now including the people in Chicago and the African American community. You don't have to comply to the tyrannical tactics or treasonous laws. Damn straight. It's been an epidemic in that city for a very long time. And of course, Gordon Lightfoot, she's just a piss poor example. And I'll continue on here about due process. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor be denied of equal protections of the laws. Yeah. You're not second class. You're not scumbags, peasants, or degenerates. You're beautiful human beings. Yes, Chicago has their demons, tyrants, like every other community, but regardless is big or small. But you guys learn to exercise these rights as well, folks. Time to learn it. And we'll hit section 6. Searches, seizures, privacy, and interceptions. The people shall have the right to be secured in their persons, houses, papers, and other possessions against unreasonable searches and seizures, invasion of privacy, of interceptions of communications by eavesdropping devices or other means. No warrant shall issue without probable cause, supported by affidavit, particularly describing place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. If I remember, I think it happened in the early 90s. I could be mistaken. People in Chicago, if you know about this, share, you can send me information. I remember there's a thing called Operation Clean Sweep, when they went to certain buildings and seized people's firearms. Yeah. How come they can do that under Article 1 section without honoring Article 1 section 6? I hit 16. At 16 reads, ex post facto laws and impairing contracts. No ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts or making an irrevocable grant of special privileges or immunity shall be passed. I remember they say they had the time Chicago's gun laws were considered illegal in their city. That's an invalid contract. And permits, concealed carry permits, because it does affect your natural rights under Article 1, Section 1 and 2. And your right to privacy, 6. Think about it. All right, so I'm just giving you guys a little run here. And we can hit down to 22. Subject only to the police power. The right of the individual citizen to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. No permits, no permission, natural right. That connects to Section 1 of the same article. Think about that, folks. Always beware of the contradictions. And we can hit 23. A frequent recurrence of the fundamental principles of the civil government is necessary to preserve the blessings of liberty. Remember, liberty means freedom plus morality. These blessings cannot endure unless the people recognize their corresponding individuals' obligations and responsibilities. So the folks in Chicago, even the African American community as well, all Chicago, I'll be very fair. You have those obligations. Keep the government intact and protecting your loved ones, your neighbors, innocents. Think about that, okay? Let that sink in, and in a positive way. And we can hit rights retained. The enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the individual citizens of the state. Very similar to the 9th Amendment U.S. Constitution. So everything they try to shove down your throats, whether it's a local or state level, when it comes to prohibition of firearms, having no gun shops, that's a form of mercantilism, and it deprives rights of property. All right, on that perspective, and they try to shove down your throats are null and void. Article 1, your Bill of Rights supersedes all those laws, all those little tricks in the trade, trick bagging you, administrative fines, etc. Gordon Lightfoot, the police chief of Chicago, they got nothing to say. Those knuckleheads, if they rant on this, try to defend us, shove a P-Now microphone in their throats. And don't worry, it's not sexual harassment either. Because they emulate themselves of stupidity. So you got all that to refute. And when you read this, it's very self-explanatory. The more you know, the more you learn, the more you implement, the less you fear. This is why I tell everyone in that community, you got it right at your fingertips, folks. Don't be afraid to use it. And share this with your colleagues, even at these clubs. It is essential. You can download my show if you want and play it for them. That'd be great. I'm not here to be a rock star or anything like that. But give folks inspiration. And another thing you gotta look at, the police protection myth. According to Illinois Complied Statute 745, Section 4-102. It reads here, neither a local public entity nor a public employee is liable for failure to establish a police department or otherwise provide police protection service, or if police protection service is provided, for failure to provide adequate police protection or service, failure to prevent the commission of crimes, failure to detect or solve crimes, and failure to identify or apprehend criminals. This immunity is not waived by contrast for private security services, but cannot be transferred to any non-public entity or employee. So, technically, Chicago's finest aren't obligated on protecting you as an individual or group. Why give them the power on harassing you? These are facts, on his face, prima facie just cause. I'm very delighted to see that the city, the Windy City, are taking action. I do admire that dearly. Even if you talk about this at your churches. Yeah, there are biblical references in there on self-defense. You can look it up. It's not that bad. It's very good stuff, folks. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is enslavement. We all have our flaws, but we can always learn to better ourselves. This is why I am very pleased to see this happening. And if the newspapers, like the Chicago Tribune, wigs out over it, and the government, it has to be good. So if they wig out, folks, in Chicago, have a big smile on your face. Go, thank you. I'm inspired. So keep it up, my friends. I love it. Hopefully one day I'll go up to Chicago and meet all you folks out there. Because I would love to have little chats with people I know. All right, that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or sense on this issue you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. I'll say it one more time. Furthermore, if you want to send me any information, questions, comments, and all that, you can hit me at LookingLuck03@protonmail.com. If you want to donate, go get me at paypal.me or cash.app/LokiLuck3. And support these clubs, these organizations. That's in the newspaper. Okay, 60. Support these guys. I am very happy. Things are turning around. All right, folks. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.